Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the Happiness Jungle TV show with yours truly, your Chief Happiness Officer, Lyn-Dee Eldridge. And today, as you notice, I'm in a different area. I'm in Orlando, Florida today, and I am just so blessed. I think that we're all going to be blessed with our next guest that we have on our show today. I had the great opportunity to meet this man almost a year ago, and I heard him on stage. We were both speaking at this event, and this gentleman just blew me away. He is so full of heart. He is so full of compassion to help each and every one of us change in so many ways. He is a CEO of not one, not two, but several different companies and different organizations. And he's the CEO of also a nonprofit organization for fathers to have a better bond with sons. Like I said, this man is an amazing influencer. I know that he has changed my life in many, many ways, and now I get to gift him to you. So without further ado, he's going to share his story. He's going to share where he came from and where he is now, and he's going to inspire you to make you realize that wherever you are not stuck. You can go as far and as wide as you want to. Your dreams can become your reality. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to one of the best influencers of the world, Mr. Chris Salem from Connecticut. Chris, can you hear me?
Lyn-Dee, thank you so much. And I am, first of all, so grateful and humble for that warm introduction and to be here on the Happiness Jungle today. And I'm here to serve your audience in whatever way is going to make, allow them to make those changes for themselves. I'm just going to share from the heart, and I'm going to follow your lead and go from there.
Yeah, I love it. And your bio is just so beautiful and so long with all of the things of diversity and all of the things that you've accomplished. So I just want to have a wonderful conversation with you to let my audience hear, who is Chris Salem? Where did he come from? What was his background? And where is he today? So let's start with going into a little bit of your past so we can bring you back into the future. Share with the audience, because your story really resonated with so many people that were in our audience that day. And now we get to share you all over the world because the show is syndicated all over the world. So let's go ahead and start with, where did you come from, Chris?
Well, I mean, I grew up here in the greater New York area, right here where I am right now in Connecticut, even though I've lived in other places throughout my life, but been back here in this area now for, I'd say about a little over 20 years. But nonetheless, what I'd like to do is kind of start off, not necessarily talking about my career in itself, but really talking about, what really, where I was as a person and where I'm at today, because everything that I went through back then had prepared me to where I am today, not only in my career and why I do what I do, but more importantly, the person that I become to be an example for others to do for themselves. So with that being said, I grew up, I was the first son. I have a younger brother, and I grew up in a very codependent home. Even though I had my mother was wonderful, did everything we can possibly ask, but my father was not present for the most part growing up in pretty much throughout my childhood. My dad grew up very poor, so with him, it was all about that I'm going to make a name for myself, which I could understand for what he grew up. And so when I was growing up, my dad was always overseas. He was, building a business over there, so I would just see him here and there. And when he was here, he was kind of emotionally checked out. So we really didn't have conversation. It ended up being worse off for my brother. So I grew up with a lot of dysfunction when he was around, because he would, he was short-tempered. He would take out a lot of his frustrations on us, my mother and my brother and I, more or less my brother even more than me. And as a result of that, I grew up with a lack of direction. So, as you're a young man, you kind of want to look up to somebody that you could model yourself after, and, that could help you really forge that foundation for your confidence. And I didn't have that. And growing up, I just kind of gravitated towards things that I thought would, make me feel happy. And because at that time I didn't know that happiness was a choice. I thought, something had to make you happy, right? I didn't know any better. With that being said, I had a wonderful mother who did everything for us, but nonetheless, sometimes didn't allow us to kind of do things on our own. And as a result of that, I became heavily codependent in certain areas. And as I grew up, I was very angry as a teenager, engaged in behaviors that obviously got me into trouble. And it was just a form of kind of just lashing out, trying to get attention, seeking this validation that I didn't have from my father in other ways, even if it was negative. And this led to, really interfering with relationships I had with friends, with, my personal life with women. It also interfered with work relationships that I had, getting jobs where I would start off strong and then throw it all away and then have to start all over and repeat the pattern over and over again. And the anger that I experienced every day, was that I didn't know how to escape it. I would listen to loud music. I then gravitated towards certain things like alcohol and drugs and sex that allowed me to escape it temporarily. And that was like more of a short-term fix because that's all I knew. And as a result of that, I had to deal with the repercussions or consequences for the behavior that was a result of that and how it interfered in my work, in my personal life, and with my family. But that was not the turning point for me, even though I had a lot of, very difficult experiences, 2 near-death experiences in my 20s. That was not the wake-up call for me. It was really at the time when my father was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 56, him being 56, not me. And that was the wake-up call. And I realized when my dad it was 2 days before his death, and I remember him kind of turning his head to me. He couldn't speak because he was on morphine. So his eyes were open, but there was nobody home. I mean, it was just like, he was pretty much halfway out of his body at that point. But it was like he was communicating me, telling me that if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't have gone down the road I went. I missed being there for you and your brother. I was not a good husband. I was not a good father. But I realized from there that there was a reason, because he only could be what he knew, because he didn't have it himself. So you can't give what you don't have. And I never knew that up until that point. And that was the turning point to me where I realized that happiness is a choice. And no matter what cards have been dealt to us, it's our responsibility to do something about it. No one else. I didn't know what that meant at the time. I didn't know how I was going to go about changing my life and my career where it was, because it was in the toilet at that point. But I just knew at that point I had to take responsibility, and that I can only control what I know now, and I had to give up what I don't know and let go of the control I can't control. But it was amazing that I was able to gravitate into an Eastern, meditation program, 12-step program as well. And I was able to find a process that allowed me to get to the root cause of what led to me experiencing anger on a daily basis. Mm. And it was through meditation and journaling. And this is two habits that I do to this day, every day I've done for over 20 years. It's what I teach my clients, whether if it's either executive client, professional client, or if it's somebody that's just coming to me for personal reasons. Mm-hmm. And it was that allowed me to get to the root cause of my limited beliefs, which ended up going back to my father, and where I had this never-ending hunger for validation, to be recognized, to be looked upon, and it just always went unfulfilled. And I lived my life in the world of codependency and expectation. So I began to see this for the first time with clarity, and realized that I had to forgive the source to this, my father, and more importantly, myself. And I had to shift, if I was going to shift my behavior and how I related to other people and communicated to other people, I had to take ownership of learning how to love and nurture myself in an interdependent versus a codependent way. And so I began to read up on that stuff. I began to adopt other types of habits and disciplines in conjunction with the meditation and journaling that would allow me to shift out of the problem into a solution that would allow me to now change my life and to live a life of better work-life harmony and choosing happiness rather than allowing happiness to find me. And it was a daunting task. It was a process. It didn't happen overnight. But nonetheless, if you want me to go on, I can, Lyn-Dee, but I want to leave you for some other questions. But that was the story behind the story that led to where we are.
Yeah, I love that, Chris, and thank you so much for sharing. Sometimes it's difficult to share your past, but that's how we help our future, right? And I love what you said. You broke the chain. I know that you have a beautiful wife today. You have a wonderful son, and I watch you, and I know that you are not your father. I know that you have created the father that you wish you would have had. And I see you, active with your son. I see so many bright things in your life because you made the decision. And I love how you titled this show, Happiness is Your Choice, because that's exactly true. It's your choice, and you took ownership, and you are now you're an influencer to just so many, and you're changing so many lives from the very young and even up to the very old. And when I say the very young, I know how involved you are with your son. So your son is really just melting into your love instead of you being away all the time, because we travel, we're speakers, we're entrepreneurs, we're trainers, and we're mentors, but you're so present. And I want our audience to realize that today is the day of change. Right now, you can make the decision. You have it in you that you no longer want to be stuck in the past. 1 minute ago is your past. You can leave it. And right now, live in the now and make that choice to do exactly what it is that you want to do. But you need to have personal development in your life. You need to be, playing in different playgrounds, and you need stronger mentors. And Chris, I know that you're known all over the world, and because of this wonderful, wonderful thing called social media and Zoom, that you could help anybody wherever they are around the world, as long as they're willing to step up to the plate and make a difference and a change in themselves. So I love that about you.
Thank you so much. And and it's shows like yours, Lyn-Dee, that really, again, allow not only you as the voice behind your show, but guests that you have on to share their experiences. It's that experience when people share from their heart that empowers others to find within themselves and how they can go about making those changes. Because nobody can fix you. Nobody can change that for you. It's our personal responsibility, no matter, again, what cards were dealt with you or what trauma you've been through. It always comes down to our responsibility. And if you find a good mentor or a role model that you can see what they did for themselves, doesn't mean you adopt the same methodology 100%, or because their values and principles may be slightly different than yours, but using it as a benchmark to find what will work for you to make those changes so that you can be a better example for others.
100% agreed, and an amen to that, because it is so true. I know for myself, with my dark past, I made that decision that I was going to break the chain. I was going to be a different parent. I was going to be a different mentor, and I was absolutely going to do business completely different than what I was brought up to believe how business was supposed to be done. And the only way that I could do that is because I had to have my own mentors. I have mentors today. You have mentors today. We always have to invest in ourselves to be better. So if our audience feels stuck today, it's okay, because you could literally lift your feet up and leave where you are and step to the right, step to the left. It doesn't matter. Just step in a different direction if you're that unhappy with what the situations are going on in your life. And Chris, you are an influencer. You are a model of that can happen for you, and it can happen for others. So I'm just so excited. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
I want to talk to you about also your nonprofit. I was brought up in a very abusive home. When I was a year and a half, my father was really shunned away from us, so I never got to meet my dad. And I always felt so bad for the men, not just man, which was my dad, but for men that this is happening to. So we often speak about women, and we often speak about, what they're going through in the divorce and what he's not doing, and da-da-da. But are we allowing him to? That's my biggest question. Are we allowing him to step up to the plate? When we get a divorce, and I just want to touch on this because it really
Sure.
it just resonates with me because I'm a divorced parent, right? Do not involve your children. Do not involve your children. What's going on in your life, in your personal life, with your partner, your ex-partner, that is your junk. Don't bring your children into that. They are not part of that junk. Let them love both parents and let both parents love the children. That's my biggest message. So, how did you get involved in the nonprofit for fathers? Share with us about that.
Well, I mean, just the fact, the story that I shared with you about my personal journey is that, one of the basis points of Empowered Fathers in Action. We also have a co-founder, Joe Cohen, who also wrote Right Father, Right Son, a book on a father and son, basically, using a journal to write, while his son was growing up, their experiences. And, in the case where my co-founder partner, Joe Cohen, had a very similar background to me with his father, but yet he did it also differently with his son. Was he perfect? No. Was I perfect? No. But nonetheless, we were completely in contrast to our own personal experiences. So Empowered Fathers in Action was designed to really around that, to show dads that, hey, we need to step up because we play an instrumental role in our children's development. Mothers are very important, will always be the most important, but nonetheless, a father is just not a means to an end. He's not the one that just provides and takes care of the family. They also emotionally and psychologically play a major role in that child's development, especially sons, but even daughters as well. And we have to step up. And again, we can't be what we don't have. So we can't put the mask on and pretend that we're being that value when in reality we are not. We have to step up and get to the root cause of our own limited beliefs. So we started off with that premise, but we soon evolved into addressing the family. So we teach families how to create interdependent family structures free from limited beliefs by addressing the parents addressing their own limited beliefs so they could be better examples for their children to follow. This will help children to grow into, again, with higher levels of self-confidence, self-esteem. This will also help them become better leaders, better communicators, and better problem solvers and critical thinkers in not only in their personal lives, but their business and then also in their communities. So we feel that if we're going to build interdependent relationships in our communities and our businesses, it starts in the home.
I love it. I absolutely love everything that you say. And I love when I get to mentor people, divorced couples, to co-parent because I know what that's all about, and I'm just so
and this is
thrilled
and this
that
can be for
this
divorced families as well. Yeah, this is for divorced people as well. So it's not just like the husband and wife.
It's for everybody. It's just for everybody.
Absolutely.
You could be in a relationship, in the marriage, and two people completely think separately, differently, and the child is walking around going, which way do I go, George? Which way do I go? And here you are just creating that level playing field, if you will, for a healthier upbringing for our children. So I love you for that. I absolutely adore you for that.
Thank you.
You're amazing. And, and then, to take us into the business world. And like I said, I've seen you on stage. You had people, they were glued to their seat. One gentleman was sitting next to me. He goes, I really have to go to the bathroom, but I just can't afford to miss anything that he's saying because he's so spot on with not only life, but within business too. So share some gold nuggets about business. And because I could eat you up.
Well, I mean, life and business are one. A lot of times people look at life and business as separate. What goes on in your personal life, you bring into your business. What goes on in your business, you bring to your personal life. So a lot of these habits and disciplines that can serve you are things not only will serve you in your personal life, but will serve you in your business. So if you're looking to really take your business to another level, it starts with you being that change, being the transparent leader to lead by example. That means that we have to become more effective communicators. We have to learn how to engage people. We have to learn how to recognize people's strengths, not their weaknesses. We have to learn how to, learn not to manage people, but to to lead by example and manage systems and processes. So if we're going to do this, we have to look at what are the certain things that will allow us to be better at what we do. So it's not being the best, it's showing up to be your best. It's a big difference. Because when you show up to be your best, you're now moving towards an interdependent work environment or a relationship with people in the business world, whether people you work with, people that work for you, or your customers. If you're showing up to be the best, you're creating that divide. That's either independent or codependent. So the thing is that in the business world, things that you do to improve your relationships with your wife, your husband, your girlfriend, boyfriend, your children, your friends, it doesn't matter, are the same principles that can be applied in a business world. So this is why life and business go as one. So this is not that you do this once in a while. These are things that you have to make, not only make the change, but you have to practice every day of your life if they're going to become more sustainable and become more of a pattern from a growth mindset perspective long term. So that's the secret. The secret is in how you communicate, how you lead by example, and when you gain that trust and that respect, you're going to be able to do the same for other people. You're more relatable. That's going to help you to increase your business and increase, those relationships in the workplace to make that happen.
Yeah, I love that because you're absolutely right. And I share with people all the time, you spend most of your waking hours at work. And as long as you feel like you're at home and you have a family, you go home to your family and you feel better about yourself. And the same thing applies after you wake up in the morning, if you've had that good night's sleep and everything really jived at home. Not that it's going to be 100% perfect, but it all just bleeds into one another, and it could really be a happy flow for you. And then we have the burnt out people that are just so frustrated, and they go home and they're doom and gloom because they're just so burnt out. What advice do you have for those people?
Well, I'd say for those people that are burned out, again, a lot of times burnout is because we're busy, but we're not productive. We're managing the problem. We're not operating within the solution. Oftentimes, being busy is a form of procrastination, and we experience burnout as a result of it. So what procrastination is just a byproduct of fear from the past tied to limited beliefs that get projected into the future. It creates a level of anxiety. We experience that through a level of worry, and that leads to procrastination. So we find ourselves getting busy, doing a lot of things, and justifying consciously that we are getting a lot done or we're being productive, when in reality we're not. We often then come home, we feel burned out, we don't feel like we accomplished anything, we don't feel energetic, and we're oftentimes not in alignment with our purpose. So again, is getting to the root cause of limited beliefs is the process to get out of the problem into the solution, that now that you can adopt a series of habits and disciplines that will build your success foundation to be free of that burnout, so that you could find that harmony. Never balance, there's no such thing as balance, but that harmony with work and life, and learning how to be focused in the moment through mindfulness, growth mindset, and with each task that you're planning, having a plan, planning your day, knowing what you're going to do today, what you're going to do in your personal life. I meditate and journal every day, so I know I can write that down for the rest of my life. I know other habits that I do. I know what I had to do today. There are other things that will get plugged in later, tomorrow, or the next day I don't know about yet, but I trust the process, knowing that it will reveal itself and I can plug it in to complete the puzzle to move forward. That is basically, I know I'd have to spend more time to explain it, but that gives you kind of an idea of how to avoid burnout and to have a more sustainable model for success in your personal life and business.
Yeah, that was perfect. That's exactly how I wanted you to answer it. You were spot on. You were so spot on. And, every night when I go to bed, I give the blessings of the things that I have accomplished. I don't dwell over the things that I did not accomplish. And like you, I journal. I know exactly what's going to happen from the moment I wake up in the morning. And things may get ruffled, but if you have that priority list, you don't lose sight of the priorities, and then things can get jungled, and there's a following day. But I always celebrate at night. When I go to bed, I celebrate. I celebrate what I've accomplished, and I felt that burnt out, and I think so have you, where we felt like we were productive, and at the end of the day, it's like, well, what did I do?
Well, here's another thing that will help here. when you follow a plan in the solution, right, you're going to have some obstacles, but don't look at the obstacles or challenges as more digging yourself into the problem. Look at it as an opportunity or a blessing in disguise that when you go through it and experience it, that you'll become even more, that will take you to even better places. So the key is to focus on the process that leads to desired results. Get rid of expectations. Don't focus on the outcome itself, because that's tied to expectations and codependent behavior. Focus on the process in the moment with what you're doing now. Don't worry about what you have to do later, and let the process lead to the results that you seek interdependently, and learn how to give without expectation and receive without resistance. That's another thing that will help you to avoid burnout.
That's what I wanted from you right there. That's what I wanted. That is the line that just goes with me every single day.
Deliver the key statement at the end.
Excellent. We are now coming to a close, Chris. You gave our audience so much to be able to start growing from. How can they get in touch with you?
Well, the best place to get in touch with me is at my personal website at ChristopherSalem.com. That's ChristopherSalem, Salem.com. Also, you can check out our nonprofit 501c3 organization, Empowered Fathers in Action, at EFAmovement.org.
That is awesome. Chris, from my heart to yours, thank you so much for pouring into me again, and for pouring into the audience around the world. And everybody, I never said that life was easy, but I did say that you could be happier. Follow the advice of Chris. Happiness is your choice. Bye for now, everybody. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.